All right, quick and easy topic here. Proportion versus mean. I have to have that written there because it makes it easier to index and find these things when I put them on my computer. So far, we've been looking at confidence intervals for the mean of a population, meaning that from each member of the population or each member of the sample, we are collecting a number, be it their IQ, their height, their commute time, etc. We're averaging those together and trying to figure out what the average for an individual in the population is. We're going to start now with the second half of this unit, which is about the proportion. We're going to do the same thing. We're still looking at confidence intervals, but we're not talking about the average measure for something in the population. We're talking about what percentage of the population have a certain characteristic. So what percentage of the population would be male, or what percentage would test positive for a certain genetic condition, or what percentage intend to vote in the next election. So we're not looking at each individual and saying, I need a number from you and I'm going to average them all together. We're looking at each individual and saying, yes or no, do you have this characteristic? And then we're looking at what percentage of the population or what proportion have that characteristic. Now, I'll say percentage a lot. It's really the same thing as proportion. Proportion is what all of the textbooks use here. So I'm going to run down through a list and you tell me, of course, just shout at your phone or your computer or whatever, is this a proportion or is it a mean? The average number of raisins in your average box of Raisin Bran. That is a mean, because I use the word average. Anything that's an average is going to be a mean. The percentage of doctors who recommend Dentyne. That's a proportion, because it's a percentage of the population that fit a characteristic. There was a famous ad campaign, 2 out of 3 dentists recommend Dentyne to their patients who chew gum or something like that. How many eggs the average chicken produces per day? That's a mean, because it's an average, and you would collect a number from each chicken. The proportion of eggs that have double yolks. That's a proportion, because it has the word proportion. Also, what percentage of eggs have double yolks? Same thing. Percentage of U.S. population who intends to vote this year. That would be a proportion. Average age of Big Bang Theory fans. That's a mean. And the percent of seniors who watch Big Bang Theory. Again, that's a proportion because it's a percent that have a characteristic. Okay, going forward, we're going to be looking at the proportions versus means. Well, we're going to look at proportions for a while. And then when we wrap it all up at the end, that's one of the things that we'll have to determine when we're looking at the situations. Are we going to use our mean tool or our proportion tool? Now you know the difference, and knowing's half the battle. I literally watched G.I. Joe this afternoon.